Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of Little Modular. In this episode we will do something different. Potentially boring because I will be talking all the time and there will be no sounds, but also potentially one of the most important videos I have ever done. Lately I was thinking about why so often I'm struggling with my system instead of enjoying it. Because with all the power I have at my disposal, it should be fun, right? Well, oftentimes it's not fun at all. I have to struggle with the cable spaghetti, with different patching arrangements that I'm forgetting, with stuff being lost, getting lost. See, I am a musician, I am a pianist, and I also play saxophone. I used to play French horn. So my nature is instrumental. I like to play and I like when the instrument is part of me so I can feel it like it's my hand. As you can see, it's pretty big right now. There will be one more case, one more P9 right here. It's on its way. So with that kind of system, it's really easy to get lost. And lately I was getting lost too many times and I found myself that I'm not using this beautiful system as I should. And this video will be all about trying to answer the question how to set up your modules and how to set up your environment so it's most flexible and so it adapts to you and so it works with you, not against you. So these are the few tips that I have came up with, and hopefully that will allow you to have more enjoyable and more effective time with your system. So the first thing I would do before putting any modules together in a case is to think about what do I want to achieve with my system? How do I approach my modules? How do I patch? For instance, what I found out is that I'm using my system in 2 or maybe 3 ways. I'm using it mostly like a typical synthesizer, so it's a typical synth voice, a sound source like an oscillator, then a filter, some envelope, maybe some modulation, and then a VCA. Simple stuff. So once you have that figured out, obviously you need to think about how to place the modules together so they play together nicely. And that is individual thing, and you will figure it out after a few months or few years even of using them. Of course, there are some obvious candidates, like for instance, you want to have your mixer and your VCA pretty much close, so the cable runs are short. Other things, like for instance here I have Belgrade and the depth attenuator, so if I want to modulate something and I don't want to go with the full depth, I attenuate the LFO with the depth first, so they're staying next to each other. So if I have a quantizer, it is close to my oscillators bank and twin waves. If I have a trigger sequencer like Euclidean circles, I put it next to my drum modules. But modulation is here and here. Why? Because with Belgrade I can modulate this part easily and this part of the system, and with the quad LFO I can modulate this part and this part really easily. So this is not accidentally located at this side. So these are the obvious things, but there are some combinations that are individual and they work together for you. So what I would suggest is to think about those clusters and to think about those module clusters as a whole instrument. And what I have also found is that I'm most productive and most effective while using only those small clusters of 4, maximum 5 modules. For me, the smaller the better. Once you figure out those clusters of instruments, also think how those clusters can work together. But that is just half of the story. What I have figured was that I need to have the modules that I wiggle most with within the reach of my arms. The modules that I'm wiggling with need to be at the first level, bass right here, and at the first row right here. Those 2 top rows make me reach out for it. So I have to stand up or stretch my arms, and I'm lazy, I don't want to do it. So for me, that's the centerpiece. The center column is what I'm using mostly, and that's where my patches start, and that's what I'm patching most of the times. Now, the right column is my percussion column, where all the rhythm resides, all the logic modules, and some sequencers, percussion modules, and also mixers and some modulation. On the left column, I have some wicked stuff that I'm reviewing. I'm not sure what I want to do with yet, so wacky stuff. But the arrangement here is, of course, not accidental. First of all, you need to sit at your rack and see if any of the module feels comfortably. If it doesn't, for some reason, try to think why it's not comfortable. It might be a tiny thing. When I have a pressure point which has some outputs right here, if I put that module right here, all the jacks that would be sticked here would be blocking access to those buttons right here, and Eloquencer would be just plain unusable. The other thing, for example, was this right here, Bitum. This is my clock distribution board. What I have is, I have my Pamela workout right here, which goes to this Bitum right there, and all the clocks are distributed directly from Pamela or from this cluster right here. So it goes all through all the system, as you can see. Previously, this was right here. So first of all, it was obstructing the way to those inputs right here. While I was sitting like so, I would knock that all the time. So I was afraid that I would break Bitum, okay? So you need to feel comfortable. Sometimes you may, for example, not see some LEDs maybe, or some indications on an OLED screen. So it's better that a sequencer is at an angle like this than being mounted flat like that. These are the small things that you would need to think about. When I answered the first question to how I patch the modules, then I needed also to answer the second question. What are the most painful obstacles that make my life a pain in the ass? There were a few things. First of all, cable spaghetti. I used to have cable spaghetti forming right here, for instance, and it still happens at times, but not so much as it used to. So I have rearranged the modules in such way that I would minimize the cable spaghetti. Like previously, I had this levitate sitting right here. So it was a terrible mess because I had all those cables from Pamela clock right here. And then I would have all the cables from throughout the system going to levitate. So right here there was a huge cable spaghetti that was making all of those modules unusable, really. So a simple thing of moving a mixer up right here solved that pretty much, because most of the cables right now are going from the VCAs or from the filters through the mixer and then through the output. So that's the cable flow, okay? It's not hanging down, going down here. And the mixer is not the thing that I'm, wiggling a lot with. I just set a level and leave it there. And the last thing that really made my life easier is a permanent patching. Because there are some patches that you just leave and you don't need to depatch them every time you depatch your system. So what I have come up with is a simple solution. I have bought these threaded cables, you can see right there, really nice threaded cables. And the rule is that I'm not depatching them. They stay on my system all the time. These are the patches that I most likely won't depatch. For instance, these are submixes. I have this mix 3 going to levitate, and then levitate is going to Erica Synths out. These are the permanent connections. I do not need to depatch them. Same goes for the glue right here and my percussion modules, kick, snare, and rimshot going to the glue, and then glue going to Erica Synths out. Same goes for my clock distribution. Here I have all my yellow stackables and the braided cables. I'm not touching them. They go to all my sequencer clock ins. So these are the things that make my whole system synchronized. So I want to be sure that whenever I depatch my system, I have all my synchronization intact. That's basically it. And maybe the last thing, once you figure out your optimal system and optimal module placement, try not to change it all around, because you need to know where everything is, and you need to just, develop some reflexes, just like you develop them on an instrument. So you instantly know where you go, because while you are working, there's nothing worse than being held by some technical obstacles. That's why we need to have all those things synchronized. We need to have those modules organized in a certain way so they won't disturb your creative process. I hope I haven't bored you to death. So if you found that video useful and you think it helped you with your system, please subscribe and spread the good word. Take care and happy wiggling. Bye bye.